Yes, graduates, welcome to Hard Talk Podcast with HTK. Fasten your seatbelts. Hey users and subscribers, welcome back to another episode of Hard Talk with HTK. Me know, me take a long break, but things have been kind of hectic in my house. As I explained to you guys before, I needed to get some crucial things done. Christmas is coming, despite the fact that there's a lot of challenges happening in our country. Those of us who are able to, we need to do the things then. So hence the reason why I've not been on. It was far too noisy in this house for me to do any kind of recording, but I'm back. And of course, like I promised, we're never going to forget Jayden Smith and what happened with him. I'm here today to raise some crucial questions to particular institutions in the island of Jamaica who have failed this child. But I also want to highlight the fact that the scenario that we were given by the relatives of Jayden Smith are blatant lies. And as such, it is crazy to me that to date, we still have had no arrests. We've had no update from the media about what is happening with the case. There seems to be absolutely no outcome. And as the island is in turmoil, caught up with trying to repair itself after Melissa, it's clear to me that the investigative officers have shoved Jayden's case to the back so that they can deal with more pressing emergencies. I hope this video serves as a warning that while it is understandable that there may be things that are put on pause, this delay was so crucial to finding evidence about what happened with this boy, to the point where I'm pretty certain that by now all the evidence is lost. Forensically, it's next to impossible given the weather and the beating the land has taken for even dogs to be of relevance. I genuinely think that Jayden is no more. I can't think any other way at this point. Hurricane Melissa has also presented numerous opportunities for his body to be disposed of without suspicion. And even if this happened prior to Hurricane Melissa, it is pretty likely that the evidence of his body being disposed of is also washed away with the waters. So as such, we have to salvage what we can of this whole investigation. And we have to go back to the familiar points, the things that we already know, and work from there in terms of a process of elimination. It's the only thing left. Now, I want to bring your attention once again to this particular video that was done, a live that was done on TikTok, that was done by Demar. Demar is the brother of SHENEQUE. I want you to listen to his recount of how Zaire got injured. Take a listen for yourself.
Thank you for questioning us. Here, I agree with you. Something right in a Kenyezi. I understand. This is going on, Kenny. My question to you now. Me, not the media, me, I said, on should be in Jayden. Whenever blame Jayden that I cry mind. So listen, you tell me say you tell Jayden say him play too much. Yeah, that's the only thing me tell him say I'm too much. That's the only thing me tell him. Alright, listen now. The grandmother said she tell Jayden say she must careful. You must careful next time. Yes, that is what she tell him. Listen now. The young mother, the 2-year-old mother said she get a call and here said baby jump half of the bed. And a baby jump half of one. One jump off. In the deck on the setting, in jump off of the setting and jump on Jayden. Jayden move and then him jump off the key and female boy. Jump off of the setting and jump on Jayden. Jayden move and then him jump off the key and female boy. Jump off of the setting and jump on Jayden. Jayden move and then him jump off the key and female boy.
I want you to use your head right here. So Demar was in the living room with both children. He was in the living room with Zaire. He was also in the living room with Jayden. He was able to witness and account for exactly how it is that Zaire broke his femur bone. So my question is, if it is that Jayden was playing with Zaire and then Zaire fell and he broke his leg, why would the grandmother of Zaire, the aunt of Jayden, not ask the older boy who is witness to everything what happened with Zaire? Why did she insist I asked Jayden what happened to Zaire? And Jayden said Zaire fell, hit his leg from the chair. Isn't it the natural instinct to look to the older child to say, give me an account of what happened? Worse, if that child is in the living room seeing everything, why would she ask Jayden and not ask her own son? So, is it that she felt as though right away the blame should go to Jayden? Did she assign blame to Jayden by even asking him? Or is it that she was aware that they were playing in the living room, so he was the one that she naturally asked? But present in the living room at the time was also Demar. Did you also notice that he gave a little bit of extra information about how the injury took place? Remember, before, all the aunt spoke about was how the little baby likes to play this particular game with his superhero. He likes to jump around like the superhero. And they were both playing this game together. Quick reminder.
So on Thursday evening, maybe around 6:30, he and my grandson, who is Zaire Cook, 2 years old, he's a United States citizen. So he came down just a month ago to be with us. And he had he have a cartoon, a little action cartoon on it where he jumps and he do the action. So he was there in the living room doing it with Jayden. I don't know exactly, because I was in my bedroom. I don't know exactly what the intent of the movement was. But then in the room I hear Zaire scream out. So I rushed to the room only to find him on the ground, crouching his leg like this. So I pick him up, rush into the room, and then I realized that I can't move him. So I said something is seriously wrong. I called my husband and said, okay, we're going to rush him to the hospital. I called Jayden. I said, Jayden, what happened? Jayden said he fell on his leg. I said, okay. I said, Jayden, you just have to be more careful when playing with the baby. That's all we said. All of us got ready and we went off to the hospital.
So, on the basis of the fact that this is how they played together, how is it that we're now hearing from Demar that when the child jumped, he jumped onto Jayden, but Jayden moved his body? And that's when Zaire fell and hit the floor. To me, that sounds like embellishment, which means that he's adding in extra information in order to make it a rational injury. And this is the reason why I say this. There is this whole thing about Zaire's injury. Zaire broke his femur bone. And for those of you who don't know what the femur bone is, I'm going to show you a picture. Now, it is not so common for a femur bone to get broken when this is an older child. Leading up to the age of 1, it can happen quite easily from falling from the changing table, even the bed. And at that time, babies' bones, they're easy to reset, easy to, develop new growth cells, heal, and so on. Over the age of 1 year old, according to this article, it is not so common to see a broken femur bone. Now, in terms of the structure of the femur bone, it is one of the strongest in the body. The femur bone is necessary for you to be able to walk. And because it's one of the strongest in the body, it is one of the hardest bones to break. But it's not impossible. And often when it happens to children, it is as a result of a fall, but it's a fall with an intense amount of force. As the child turns into a teenager or an adult, a broken femur bone is usually around situations of a car accident or something more severe, an injury. So that's the amount of force it would take if you're thinking about a young adult to an adult. When it comes to toddlers, falls can result in a broken femur bone. However, this particular type of injury is one of the strongest indicators in medical history of child abuse. Usually, when it is that a child enters the hospital with this type of injury, particularly in America or even here in England, it kicks off a whole series of investigations, including social services, because they need to assess how it is that this strong bone ended up breaking from a mere fall. They would have to come in, see where the child fell from and so on, check out the child's environment. Because it's not so common once they get older than 1 year old for a femur bone to get broken. I know a lot of people are investigating, looking at weight of a child, the velocity that would be needed, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go into too much scientific jargon. But what I'm going to say is this. Because of how rare it is for a child to break their femur bone over the age of 1, it is a situation where institutions would raise a red flag and call on child protection to actually take a look into the child's background and the situation that led to the child being in hospital. People, a lot of services in Jamaica has failed Jayden. Now, in most instances, when it comes to identifying child abuse in circumstances where there are fractures, certain things would have to trigger. I'm not going to lie. And if the family comes across as being extremely caring, extremely loving, extremely, protective of the child, it may not necessarily raise alarms. I do not believe that Jamaican personnel are also clued up when it comes to these signs that something could be amiss. And we tend to take things on surface level and get easily intimidated by status and class. Now remember, Zaire is an American-born child, a citizen of America. And therefore, they will hesitate when it comes to, wanting to get their own services involved to call CDA and all of them something there. What them name again on a CDA? CPFSA. And I'm not saying this to say that that family necessarily abused the child. But I do find it very, very strange that in the circumstance, everything that was spoken about involved Jayden, involved Zaire. There was absolutely no mention of the fact that Demar was present in the living room as well. Why was Demar excluded from her recount of what took place on the Thursday when Zaire broke his femur? Why was his name not mentioned as a key witness? Because, all right, fair enough if she even asked Jayden first. Wasn't it a natural step to then go, Demar, this did happen? You see anything else happen? You see anything else take place? It is a natural thing to do that. And somehow that discussion never surfaced in her interview or later on. But Demar spoke on himself and made it clear that they were all present in the living room when the incident took place, with the exception of the aunt who was in the bedroom. Now, we also have to remember that on the Friday when Jayden went missing, Demar was not in school. There has been no mention of where Demar actually was. So when I say to you that several systems have failed Jayden, I need you to understand where I'm coming from. First of all, in a situation where a child has gone missing from a household, child protection should be involved heavily with that family. There needs to be an investigation called out on the aunt, uncle, and any other adult that was present. And there needs to be further interviews taking place from a social care perspective. We've heard nothing of that to date. In terms of the situation with Zaire's broken femur, I've explained to you that it is the hardest bone to break and it takes considerable force. But I don't want people to misinterpret that into thinking that I'm saying somebody did something extreme to Zaire. Because there are several instances where falls from furniture, playground equipment, from desks have resulted in children's femurs getting broken. And no abuse was involved. So I know a lot of people want to run with that conspiracy theory, but I'm going to give you some examples, however, of the process and what that child has to go through with a broken femur. Because it's not no simple thing. Take a look at some of these examples.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
This would be the last day EJ will be using his legs. Welcome back to Married to Medicine Residency Edition. The day started off normal. EJ woke up, saw the sun shining, and immediately got excited because that meant water day at daycare. I dropped him off, went for my usual 10K step walk, and even stopped for a few groceries on the way back. Henry helped prep vegetables when I got home. It was giving teamwork, soft life, and a peaceful afternoon. But just as I was wrapping up cooking, I got a call that shifted everything. EJ had fallen and he wouldn't let anyone touch his left foot. We went straight to the hospital, got an x-ray done, and the results came back. And just like that, they said his left femur was broken. And listen, I don't even know who cried more between me and EJ, but I think I cried more, but EJ's eyes were more swollen than mine. They started prepping for the temporary casting. The first bone reduction didn't align the way they wanted, so they had to try again. One more adjustment, another x-ray, and finally, I guess they were satisfied. They finished the casting. EJ slowly woke up from sedation, and as soon as his eyes opened, he was hungry because he's had a long day. But for us, everything had changed. So now we're entering a new chapter, one where the next 6 to 8 weeks will look very difficult. This is still Married to Medicine, just not the version we expected. Talk to you guys later.
Now look at how this child, who is also 2 years old, by the way, is having to manipulate his body with the cast on. Does that look like a comfortable position? Does that look like a child that will be in comfort? You heard the previous video where they mentioned that it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks with the cast on. If Zaire had a broken femur, this is what his life would be looking like right now. This child would be in a cast and his mobility will be extremely limited. There is severe discomfort and, you know, it causes a lot of just inconvenience generally for the carers, as well as the child more significantly. You try to tell me, say Shanique happy about this? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Remember, it is rumored that Zaire went to St. Anne with the Cooks, which is Shanique's husband's family. If you remember when I did the video where I revealed to the world for the first time who Tammy was, in that video, there was a lady who was called Mrs. Cook. I think that that would be the husband's mother. So it is the husband's side who has to care for Zaire while he is in this cast. Interestingly, you would wonder how it is that a nurse wouldn't recognize that she can't fly back with Zaire with him having gone through such a situation, such an ordeal. But what I'm going to address is how it is that Demar's story, the extra embellishments, just emphasizes that, listen, this is what took place. There's also something that the aunt said that, it sounded almost technical. Let me point this out to you. Take a listen to this part that she says.
So on Thursday evening, maybe around 6:30, he and my grandson, who is Zaire Cook, 2 years old, he's a United States citizen, so he came down just a month ago to be with us. And he have a cartoon, a little action cartoon on it where he jumps and he do the action. So he was there in the living room doing it with Jayden. I don't know exactly, because I was in my bedroom. I don't know exactly what the intent of the movement was.
Now listen, he was playing in the chair. He dove onto Jayden. Jayden moved, he shifted his body, and then Zaire landed on the floor and broke his femur. That's from Demar. The aunt said that he was out there playing the same superhero thing and he fell to the floor. She does not know with what intensity. Intensity? The word didn't even sound natural coming from her lips. Let me ask you this. Does this not sound like somebody who has been coached in terms of what to say to explain Zaire's broken foot? Doesn't it sound as though Shanique was the one who put that language into her mother's mouth? Because that is not how she normally speak when she had come and talk about she don't know with what intensity. It didn't sound natural. It sounded like she was repeating what she has heard from her daughter. Now, I have got some possible root ways of investigation with this. The fact that they're going out of their way to remove Demar from presence, from being a key witness, from being there while this situation happened, almost suggests to me that Demar knows a lot more about how Zaire ended up with a broken femur, and they do not want him questioned. By removing him as a key witness during the whole investigation period where things were hot, then the police would have missed that Demar was key to seeing what took place with Zaire. His absence on the Friday also raises several red flags. Out of all of the family members, including Shanique, Demar had a lot more flexibility on the Friday to move around. Remember, Demar did not go to school on the day that Jayden was woken up, fed his breakfast, dropped off at the taxi stand by the uncle. During all of this, there's no mention of Demar getting ready and equally going to school. In fact, Demar said he was the one who got him his breakfast. Very strange. There is a video where he's talking about the fact that he was the one who fed his cousin Jayden.
Because the phone put on the media, sound like say Your mother, they dead, when the baby foot broken. He was there. Come out on the news, Well, that's how she said. She just said like she was there. So even at that letter, the statement, when you come and get down, I want different statement from the lady. The whole of the day na here. The whole of the day na here. Because me got shop come back and then that will happen. So who are left the hospital and something. Me just pass it in the car, Jayden just pass it in the car. Me get up the morning, me go tie out boat. Me never see Jayden in the bathroom and being get up. Me make Jayden breakfast and go tie out boat and left it there. And when me tie out the boat, my father shout and tell me saying God. Left Jayden out the road, to take taxi and he Jayden. The morning me go tie out boat. Me never see Jayden in the bathroom and being get up. Me make Jayden breakfast and go tie out boat and left it there. And when me at out the boat, my father shout and tell me saying God. Left Jayden out the road to take taxi and he Jayden 1,500 like I never had no change.
And that he was the one who was out there at tie out goat, and almost as though he was being the responsible child. Yet it is the uncle was the one who was supposed to have made him breakfast, according to the grandmother, the aunts. I use grandmother and aunt interchangeably because she is in fact the grandmother of Zaire, but also the aunt of Jayden.
Because they went with you? Okay.
Yes, all of them went with me. Because normally when we going out, we don't leave anybody.
Okay, good.
And we went to the x-ray, we get the x-ray done, and I went back in because they would send the report to the doctor by the screen then. So you would have to bring the paper itself to the doctor. So when she looked at it, she said to me that the baby bone break. And I was sent back again to sit in the seat again until minutes after 6 when they said to me that they're going to admit the baby. It was about maybe 5:30 some minutes to 6 that my husband said to me he's going to leave because remember the kids are going to school. I said, okay, when you go home, let Demar ready and come down.
Okay.
Demar came down. I called my husband when he reached home and I said to him, no, he called me and asked me how much is Jayden's lunch money. I said, give Jayden $1,200. He turned to me and said he doesn't have a $200, so he's going to give Jayden $1,500. I said, okay, no problem. My husband cooked the morning when he went up back and give Jayden cooked food to go to school. 6:30 they left the house and they went out the road.
So if you listen, between 11 to 12 midnight, which is when, according to Demar, they left the hospital, and around 7 o'clock in the morning, these two boys were at the house. A trip was made. When they fell asleep in the car, they were taken back to the house. They were allowed to sleep. When the husband told his wife that, listen, I have to go back, it's because he does the school runs, he does the trips, taking children to school. So he has to get back in time in order to make that hustle. So around 6 o'clock in the morning is when Mr. T leaves and goes back to the house. She then goes on to say that Mr. T does the cooking. Remember, she was questioned about how quickly he could have turned around breakfast until, for 6:30. When in fact it was Demar who was doing the cooking, tying out the goat and all of these things to get breakfast ready for Jayden to go to school. He now explains that the reason why he did not go into school that day is because he had to go back to the hospital in order to relieve the mother, so that the mother could go to the toilet and all these things. So he spent the day at the hospital with his mother. And in fact, when the mother speaks about going to Mother's to get chicken, she speaks about Demar being with her when she realizes that Jayden was missing. So SHENEQUE turns up at the hospital. Remember, according to Mr. T, it was the Friday morning she turned up. We've already said that don't make no sense, but let's roll with it. When she turns up at the hospital to also relieve the mother, Demar doesn't leave. Demar stays at the hospital for the whole time. So with Demar being in the hospital, she's free to then go to Spur Tree so that she can go and do her changes and her freshening up with her friend Tammy. During this time, while she's busy doing these things, Demar stays in the hospital with the aunt, based on how they're telling the story. The only thing that can prove Demar being there is hospital footage, CCTV. Because all of this needs to be verified in order to eliminate Demar from possibly leaving with SHENEQUE during her freshen up period, because she did return to the hospital. If you remember, even Mr. T said when he went into the hospital, he was about to go get some soup and she walked in literally behind him. So, did Demar remain at the hospital right up until the evening? Quite possibly. Also possible that he may have left intermittently with his sister. Those are the lines of questioning that needs to be followed and confirmed, so that we can rest assured that Demar had nothing to do with Jayden's disappearance. So, out of all of this that's going on, and we've been homing in on SHENEQUE and we've been homing in on all these other parties, the person that they have also protected is a key witness to what took place with Zaire, and that is Demar. Now, Demar says that he was questioned by the police. It took a while before he got called for his interview. It would have given him ample time to speak to his sister and they get all their ducks in a row and line things up. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to the slackness of the institutional pace when it comes to the investigation and the fact that systems have failed Jayden. Remember, we've already established that SHENEQUE had a window of time where she could have easily have interacted with Jayden after school. Was Demar also present when that was taking place? If he was at the hospital, there will be footage that he was there. If he never left and he stayed by his mother's side, that should be very easy to prove. There should be witnesses in the hospital to that effect. And if the police have already done that investigation, that is possibly why Demar has not been arrested and why Demar has not been held in custody, pending further investigation. And that only leaves SHENEQUE with her comings and goings. It also leaves a gap because at 11 o'clock at night, when he went back with Demar having fallen asleep in the car, Jayden was with Demar alone because the father came back to the hospital, left them there. Are we sure that Jayden went to school on Friday? Was he witnessed in school, or did the school not realize that Jayden was absent and are too embarrassed to come forward to say that they had a failed accountability system? Did Jayden get ready to go to school but not actually go into school? Did he spend the whole day on the road? These are the lines of questioning that needs to be confirmed. All these witnesses that were thrown up by the principal, how are they so nameless in the public eye? Why can't these members of staff be named to say, Miss So-and-so saw, Mr. So-and-so saw? All these random people who were on the street saying they saw Jayden, none of them have come forward to the public to say, yes, I was the one. None interviewed by the press to say, yes, I saw Jayden. The investigative journalism, even around that, doesn't make any sense, because a real investigative journalist would have gone to find out who these neighbors were and people on the street who saw Jayden, be it that he was soaking wet or not. Because I am telling you, there is no way, given what took place with her son, that SHENEQUE was not pissed off. Pissed off to the max about the pain and discomfort her baby was going to experience. Scenarios that need to be explored include: did Zaire's femur getting broken have anything to do with Demar and not JAYDEN? Demar, being a 15-year-old, would be able to apply brutal force by kicking, even in playing. That could have led to the trauma that fractured his bone. Is it that JAYDEN witnessed something that happened between Demar and that little boy, Zaire? Also, was Demar in line to be filed for to go to America? Would the discovery that he had something to do with Zaire's fractured leg turned off the husband from having him in the house or putting in any paperwork for him? Would that have cancelled those potential future plans? These are all scenarios that need to be looked into. Was JAYDEN a key witness to the fact that it was nothing to do with him, but everything to do with Demar? Did Demar need to silence JAYDEN as a result of it? Hence the overwhelming guilt, where she came out claiming we were not angry at him, knowing that they were using JAYDEN as a scapegoat to stop her brother from being removed from the process of coming to America to live or even to visit. These are scenarios that need to be looked into. Likewise, is it that he was threatened to be silent and speak nothing of it or else, and in fear made his plans to leave the house? However, it seems so convenient that the aunt is so aware of how much money JAYDEN took from his box, how he planned to go to get pizza, etc. How she subsequently comes on talking about the fact that he roams after painting him as a perfectly good child. Both her and the uncle. All of a sudden, JAYDEN a rolling stone, rolling calf. The way they line up their story to make sure that it paints a picture that this child ran away and that they know that he ran away gives such a heavy impression of what you call a red herring argument, throwing people off the course, off the scent of what took place. Is it that the real abusers or the real harmers of Zaire are still in that household, and JAYDEN was meant to carry the water with basket, and JAYDEN said hell no and decided to leave? Did JAYDEN face some harm while being out there on his own? All of these are scenarios that need to be explored. Why has the police gone quiet on the case? Why has everything gone silent? How is it that SHENEQUE was busy playing around for Halloween, all dressed up for a Halloween party? Yes, those pictures are out there. While such a serious matter is being investigated, sounds to me as though she's well aware that nothing will point back at her. Remember, Demar never went to school for 1 week after. 1 whole week, claiming he was looking for him every day. Was that 1 week of absence from school more so about his guilt, his conscience, the fact that he was afraid he might have been discovered? He needed time to build his story and his web of lies, to cover him and his sister's back. Did Shanique know that possibly Demar did something where Jayden is concerned? Did it really happen on Friday afternoon, or did it happen Friday morning? Hence we have these lies about who made breakfast, because people are trying to account for time, and the time is overlapping in the stories. All of that points to lies that cover up the truth. Why is Demar, who usually would rather play a game, suddenly showing himself off as the chef, the one who ties out the goat, when it was in fact Jayden who was the industrious child? The only reason I would see Demar being industrious is if Jayden was already no longer in the picture. So he had to do what Jayden would have had to do. These are the scenarios that need to be explored. The close relationship between the principal. How close was the principal to the aunt? What kind of relationship did they have? Who was the boss whose house was in Spur Tree? Was it the principal? Whose house was it that Shanique went to freshen up with her friend Tammy? People are making assumptions that it was this principal's house, that there is something covert there. Was the uncle also working for the principal? Who was this boss? That needs to be confirmed. Why did they have such free access to his home, to the point where a key could have been handed over? Why was the aunt on such close levels with the principal that she could ring him instantly the moment Jayden went missing? Was that really the phone call that took place? Or was it to explain the fact that Zaire's leg was broken, something terrible went down, she needed help to get out of a situation? Does the aunt have secrets for the principal, and therefore it was his turn to pay back? How is it that now we have got radio silence on the case, but yet the government is still investigating in that neck of the woods crimes that are coming out of there since Hurricane Melissa? So why no word on Jayden Smith? Is it because the principal's involvement would lead to problems, political scandal? How closely connected is he with the powers that be? Think about the fact that this family has been raising people's children. Jayden and his brother that was mentioned are not the only ones. There have been others that pass through their hands. Is it that they're just good people, or Is there something else more sinister going on in that household? Where is Zaire currently? Because rest assured, he's still in a cast if his femur was in fact broken. Have the police confirmed that his femur was in fact broken? Who is caring for him now? How is she so relaxed to leave this child throughout the entire hurricane period? And now that flights have reopened, how is she not back? Is her movements in and out of the country being closely watched? Has SHENEQUE been brought in for questioning? When I tell you that to be poor is a crime, and if Jayden was anybody else's child who they consider to be somebody of caliber, the reaction would be very different. Jayden's biological mother is not regarded, neither by the family nor the system. In addition, with all of the people who have come around her, none have brought her legal counsel. Not LA, nor anyone else. The only person who can advocate for Jayden Smith now is that mother. And if she doesn't step up to the plate and come forward and go to the police and insist on progress with the investigation, they will sit back on their haunches and just call him a day. The mother is the only person who legally by right, whether or not she handed that child over, as long as she signed no documents that gave up her parental rights, she has every right to demand the progress of that investigation. She has every right to ask for what is happening. Who is advising her and letting her know that she is the one that can keep the fire burning legally? You can't just stay in your house and cry or go on TikTok and beg for people to return your child. You have to work the system. You have to go where the investigation is being handled and demand an update. It is your right. And if you get nothing there, the press is the next step. Anyway, people, like I said, it's all a very distressing thing. And at this point, I think it is time now for us to watch to see what the police are going to do about this. My graduates, I fear for the worst when it comes to the Jayden Smith case. If Jayden is somehow out there and has managed to survive Melissa and is in the captivity of other people, or has willingly decided to stay away, there has to be something so seriously wrong with that household that has made that child decide to do that. Because I'm sure if he's alive, he would have heard all of the distress that his absence is causing. There is no way, given what happened to SHENEQUE's child, that SHENEQUE would not be angry. And she wouldn't be looking for somebody to blame. But the lies and the twisted tales being told by these family members points directly to them as the prime source of suspects around Jayden Smith's case. If the Jamaica Constabulary Force drops the ball on this, then Jayden would not have only have been failed by the adults in his life, but by the very systems that were meant to protect him when those who were supposed to love him did not. We have to sit back as citizens now to observe with keen eyes how the government decides to go forward with this. Will they totally sweep Jayden's case under the carpet because Hurricane Melissa has provided the opportune moment? Will this pause be removed on the investigation with updates given to the public about the progress so far? Let us watch and see. In the meantime, we continue to say justice for Jayden. If you've made it this far into the video, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, hit that bell if you are new to my channel, so when I upload a new video, you are notified. This is your girl, Head Teacher K, and I'm out.